Good morning. My name is Isabella B, and today I will be discussing the shift in women's role in society during the past century. More exactly, I will be answering the question, how has the role of women in popular culture changed over the past century? I came to the conclusion that the role of women in modern culture has shifted from being a submissive addition to a man to a more individualistic role in which women get to own their own narratives due to the impact of activist movements. In the last century, movements such as the civil rights or the second wave of feminism have helped women gain more rights by protesting and pushing for more equal ideals. For example, during the 70s, Roe versus Wade was passed, which is a Supreme Court ruling that stated that pregnant women have the right to choose what to do, whether they would like to terminate their pregnancies or if they would like to just carry forward with them. And according to the New York Times, without Roe versus Wade, the abortion rate would go down by 13%. And in some counties, it would go down even by 40%. And overall, it would decrease by 140,000 abortions, and the women most affected by this would be low income women, which it shows how women have gotten this one right that lets them have control over their bodies, which may seem like a very small thing, but it really changes a lot for women, especially for low income women, which may not have many alternatives when it comes to pregnancies and what to do with them. It has really helped them, and this one right really shows the great shift that's happened over the past century when it comes to what women can and cannot do. And throughout history, the perception of women has been pretty bad, poor. And a great example of this would be Mary Magdalene. She is a biblical figure and she is known for being a whore. She has been known for being a whore. However, in the 1960s, the church revealed that she was never a whore. She was only a devoted follower in front of Jesus, which it reflects on their perception of women because she was just a woman tied to a man's narrative, and then society decided to change hers after all. They painted her out to be something she was not, something with a bad connotation, just really because she was friends with Jesus or close to Jesus. And during the past century, more women have started to work in male-dominated fields, and many are currently succeeding. So one can see a shift from the poor perception of women to now seeing women do good. And a great example of this is Isabella B, who is a Hispanic American writer who is very successful in literature. According to her own foundation, the Isabella B Foundation, she's written 23 books. They've been translated into 35 languages. She sold nearly 70 million copies. She's won over 60 awards in 15 different countries, and she's had 2 international movies. And those are so many achievements for a writer. Not every writer gets to do that. And to think that this is a woman that we're talking about, when 100 years ago, you would barely have seen a woman writing, it's very astonishing. And another example of a woman in a male-dominated field, this one being sports, is Serena Williams, who is one of the most well-known tennis players in the world, if not the most famous tennis player in the world. And as of August 2015, she had $72 million in career prize money and 21 Grand Slam single titles. And according to one of the provided sources, she's lost 4 out of 25 appearances. And she's achieved 2 Serena Slams, which are 4 slams in a row. And to have a term named after you, that just really shows how big she is. What a talented tennis player she is, that she's done so much. She's won 4 Olympic gold medals, and she spent 253 weeks at number 1. And according to UN Women, women right now are excelling at sports, and women like Serena, very successful athletes, are really setting the example for the next generation, which starts to show how the shift in women's role is what it's going to be like. Now that there's women in these positions, these women are going to show the example for the younger generation and inspire them to do great things and so on. And that's how women are going to keep going up and doing good. And although women have gained more rights over time, it can be argued that they've always had a role in society. According to this graph right here, the role of women in society, it says that the role of women in society is to be good mothers and wives. And the green lights show the amount of people who agree, and the red ones, the amount of people who disagree with the statement. And there's a list of countries, and one can see that in most countries, there is a large percentage of people who do agree with the fact that women have that role in society. Even in Sweden, which is down here, which is the country with the most people disagreeing with the statement, there's still a good amount of the population who do think that women are made to be women, mothers and wives. And it can be seen that women have a role in society, but it doesn't really mean that they're treated equally or they're treated fairly. And according to this graph right here, the hourly wages of workers paid by the hour, one can see that men have always been paid more than women. Women have never been treated the same way. In 1979, there was pretty much a $5 gap between men and women. And as of 2017, it seems to be like less than $1, but it's still a gap between men and women. And men are still getting paid more than women. And that just shows that just because women have a role in society, they're not treated the way they should be. And there's still a lot of work needed to be done in order for women to be just an equal to men. Thank you for so much for listening to my presentation. And do you have any questions?
I do have two questions for you.
Yes.
First question. What evidence did you gather that you did not use, and then why did you choose not to use it?
So some of the evidence I gathered were articles talking about Isabella B and Serena Williams. And I decided not to use them because a lot of them were interviews and they weren't so much of like factual evidence. Like for example, their achievements. It was more what they were saying, how they felt, or like what they think they're doing. So I decided to just stick to the things they've done, things that would not be able to be argued, instead of just using their opinions or words.
Okay. And what advice would you have for other researchers who were considering a topic like yours?
I would definitely consider expanding more into like the history of feminism, because the feminist movement is really what inspired everything. Like the first wave, which was back in like the 1800s, and then the civil rights movement inspired the second wave. But I would definitely choose to like do a little history, like background information on the topic, to then just keep that in mind as they go forward with their investigation.